What's up, everybody? This is the Jedi. Greetings to you wherever you're listening and watching me from. I also want to say do subscribe to the channel, everybody, and most of all, thumbs up the video. That helps the algorithm. Also, the demons at YouTube literally stole 10 subscribers from this channel. I've been telling you forever we've been at 3,670. Suddenly we're at 3,660. Like, I watched it happen. I watched it happen. Just like I told you, I'll see my thumbs up count be one thing, and in front of me it will change. Nah, not for the good. So we need to overwhelm the system. I'm one. I can't do this without you. I can't. And the only way that this devil is able to take advantage of any of us, be it an individual, a family, a group, or a nation, is when we're divided. Division is the secret key, the main key to conquer and suppress. So I need you. Thumbs up the video, make sure you subscribe. And also, don't just thumbs up and subscribe. I need you to leave a comment saying I thumbs up and I subscribe, because that's evidence, everybody. That's evidence. I've been looking at case law because I'm crafting a lawsuit against them. But I get it, in any lawsuit, it's not what you can say, it's what you can show. So I need you to leave a comment saying I subbed, I thumbs up, so that when the numbers don't match the comments, we got them. You see? So I need you. I need you. So I'm here now, everybody, because this is the final straw for me. You know, the Azerbaijan airline, I think it was a few weeks ago, that was shot down. You'll remember there was a video that kind of went viral. There was a Muslim brother on there. He was very calm. He was filming, and they were going down. And he walked away from the wreckage, walked out without injury. So there was that one. That one already had my antennas up. And I was going to do something on that, and I don't know if I did. I don't think I did anything on that. I may have mentioned it in a live stream, but I didn't really. If I did, I didn't go in on it. Then there was the Korean crash, the Korean airplane crash, like a few days ago. And then now this one in Washington, D.C. But the last two have way too many anomalies, everybody. Way too many anomalies. And what do I always tell you? I always tell you, when you have anomalies, that is the footprint and the stench of conspiracy. That's it. That's it. That's the fingerprint. That's the DNA left behind. That's the hair follicle. That's, the toe jam, that was left behind. Whatever you want to call it. That is the calling card of conspiracy. Here's the thing. So I want to begin with the Korean plane crash. And tell you my findings there and lead us into this. Because what I learned about the Korean flight was they were on approach. Runway is in sight. There it is. And they don't make it clear if the bird strike happened first and then they did a go around, or the bird strike happened during the go around. They've been very sketchy with that. But either way, I don't need it, because they were already on final. So even if there's a bird strike, you continue the landing. There's no need to go around on a bird strike unless you are taking off and you ascended. Now you want to go around because you're like, I got a bird strike, I got to come back. Remember the Miracle on the Hudson? Sully Sullenberger? They had a bird strike. They were going to try and make it back. Or I think the tower asked him, do you want to make it back to the tower? He was like, nah, what's the airports to my left and right? And they were like, there's this one. He go, nope, can't do it. Then they told him another. They go, nope, can't do it. We're going to be in the Hudson. But they had a extraordinary bird strike because they had both engines were hit heavily, and so they couldn't return. But you only go around if you are in the process of taking off and there's a bird strike, or you that's a go around. If you're done with your ascent and you hit birds or something happens, then you do a return. But if you're on final approach and birds hit you, there's no need to go around. You would just land the damn plane. So that's an anomaly. That's your first anomaly right there. Then, second anomaly. They were on a southern approach from the south, going north. And now suddenly, this go around wasn't even a go around, because you would think, okay, we're gonna go around and try it again. That means you go back out, make a circle, and come back and land from the south again. But no. It wasn't really a go around. It was a go to the other end. And it's not clear if they requested to go around or if the tower told them to go around. We don't know that. That's the other thing I need to mention. In everything that I've looked at, we don't know if it was the tower saying go around or if the pilots were requesting a go around. But either way, they didn't go around and then come back and approach from the south. They went around and approached from the opposite direction. No. But by the way, had they continued with the landing, they would have flown over the barrier that they ended up hitting and landed. And they would have done the belly landing and skidded on down the runway and been fine. But because they went to the other end and came back in the opposite direction to land going in the wrong direction, that's why they hit the barrier. But wait just a second, because we got another anomaly. So we've got the go around, that's anomalous. Then lo and behold, for some magical, mystical reason, the landing gear won't go down. So what are the odds that you would have a bird strike, which wasn't severe enough to bring down the plane? You have a bird strike, and your gear won't work all at the same time. You see, this is anomalous. All we need now is a bolt of lightning that struck the tail just mysteriously with perfect weather. You see. So the landing gear won't go down, and the bird strike. So that's your two anomalies. That's anomalous. So that's why they were doing the belly landing. And that one really hurt me because I just thought, after they did probably after the bird strike or whatever, and they were like, we're going to do a go around, and whenever they realized the gear wasn't going to go down, I'm sure they probably would tell the passengers to brace. So just the trauma of that, having to brace on an airplane, just brace to hear those words. And then now, once they do the belly landing, you're hearing all that noise of the scraping of the metal on the concrete. That would be already terrifying, but you think you're just waiting for it to stop because you think now we've landed at least, and it's just a matter of time. It'll stop and we'll be fine until you're not. Until you're not. And then we find out that wall that they hit, the instrument thing they hit, normally isn't constructed in the way that this one was constructed. That it would have been made even with different materials, meant to give away in case a plane overshoots the runway. So that's your third anomaly there. Bird strike, landing in the wrong direction, no landing gear, and then the wall not being constructed properly. That's four anomalies. Oh, here's your fifth anomaly. There's an executive that was associated with that airline who happened to kill himself in his house that same day. That's five anomalies. Something's wrong with the Korean thing. Period. The damn end. Period. The damn end. Now, turning our focus to this, I'm going to just call it a crash in DC. Again, I lived in the MVA or the DMV for years. That's DC, Maryland, Virginia. Anybody's from that region, that's what we call it. We call it the DMV. Everybody know. And I worked in the nation's capital for years. And I know that the DC airspace is the most protected airspace on planet Earth. Period. I've also flown in and out of Reagan National. And I don't love it because depending on where you're going, I don't like when planes do a steep turn when we're ascending. I don't like that. I don't like that, and I've got my lawyers looking at some things that I can't get into. All right, just let's get up and level off. Then you can do all the turning you want to do. Don't be turning while we're ascending. Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay, but they do that, and they have to do a lot of maneuvering because there's airspace around them that is high priority airspace. Like you can't fly there. Forget about it. And I've been on the Potomac. They have these cruises that you can take that go out for several hours. It used to be a ship there called the Spirit of Washington. Me and my brother and his wife have gone out, and it's kind of a party boat. You kind of go out and you dance and have music and all of it, and you cruise the Potomac for like several hours. In the evening you come back. So I've been on the Potomac. And when I first became aware of this, I just thought it was some small, personal airplane, like maybe a single engine, some personal pilot, whatever. I didn't know what it was. And then I started understanding that it was actually a jetliner. And then I saw the footage. And my first reaction was, something's wrong with that. Something's wrong. Something is wrong. I don't know what it is, but something's wrong. And indeed, everyone who I've talked to, that's the first thing they said. Something's wrong with that. Something's wrong. I even have people calling me saying, what do you think about the crash? I'm like, something's wrong. And everybody goes, that was my first thought. So I'm going to lay out why I think that there's a problem and what the anomalies are to show that something is going on. That particular plane, the American Airlines plane, that's the very type of plane that I don't like. I wouldn't mind being on something that's not that one, but that was bigger, that had the engines in the back because, noise and all that. That would be great. But I've never liked airplanes that have the engines in the back. You won't find me on those airplanes. You won't find me on that. And if you're someone who flies, everybody, I don't know if you know this, but you can pick you can know what type of aircraft you're going to be on. And you can decide if that's what you want to do or not. Like I always look at, I mostly fly Delta, But it doesn't matter. Any of them have it. Like when you're booking the flight, if you click on details, when it's telling you the takeoff and all that stuff and everything, it'll tell you the type of aircraft, and you can look it up and see if that's something you want to be on. I always do that. And so I hate this airplane. Yeah, it's just not for me. But they were doing everything right. It's a clear night, but you have to remember that at night, and you've been on an airplane at night, when you are over a city, you got the lights that are all coming up and everything that. And then this is DC and you're near the airport, like they could see the runway and all of that. So the lights, there's light. There's an illumination in the air. There's an illumination. It's not pitch black like it is when you're still way out. So it would be illuminated. So they're on final, but they're on short final. And that's important to understand because final approach can start out like 80 miles, and I think they said with this actual approach on this aircraft and going into Reagan, the actual approach does start like 80 miles out, that they start the approach. But then final or short final is now you're below 500 feet and you're maybe 2,000 feet or something like that from the runway. And since I forget the aircraft, I think it was the Cerritos crash over one of the cities in Los Angeles back in the 1980s that prompted the collision avoidance technology that's now on airplanes, so that when the aircraft detects that there's traffic near, it'll give a warning to the pilot saying, traffic, and it will even give you a diversion suggestion, like to do something. But if the aircraft is below 500 feet, it will either A, say traffic and give you no suggestions because it doesn't want to do anything that'll make you crash, because you don't have a lot of wiggle room at 200 feet off the ground. Or it will just not sound. So, and you're on short final. So you don't really need it because there's other stuff that the system is monitoring at that point. Your descent rate, speed, the flaps, all that stuff when you're coming in. And it's monitoring what is known as your sink rate. So they were doing everything they're supposed to do. And I remind you, they don't have the type of windows on this airplane that the helicopters have. The helicopters got that wraparound ass windows. They could see from here to Egypt. So they had the best visibility. Not only that, but on short final, takeoff and landing is the most busiest time for pilots. And so they're on short final at this point. The gear is down. They're 200 feet off the ground. All their focus is on bringing this plane to the ground and landing it. You understand? So you got to be watching for crosswinds, and you're listening to the tower, and you got to be listening for a lot of things, because, and especially in that airspace, because it is so busy. You got to really pay attention to what the air traffic controllers tell you and do what you need to be doing. So they are busy. Busy. Pilots don't have time to be doing anything else but focusing on flying that aircraft on landing. Period. Same thing with takeoff. Do you understand that once they push back from the gate, they're not allowed to even talk about anything other than the flight itself? Because while you're still boarding, they're still going over all the checklist, all the flight, what we're going to do, what the flaps are going to be, how much fuel is on board, how many souls are on board, what's the overall weight, all this. They've charted their course. They're looking at wind. They're looking at all this stuff, man. Like, it's a lot. And they're also planning their takeoff. So Once they get up to speed, they're planning what their um, abort tactic will be when they get to a certain point down their own way. If they get, lose an engine, or if there's a bird strike or something like that, they're planning what will happen. Once they get to V1, it's rotation. You must go, and anything that's going on with the aircraft, you got to take that into the air and then come around if it's something you can't fly with. You know what I mean? So they also plan, okay, at V1, if there's a problem, then we go ahead and execute the takeoff, and then we're going to do X, Y, and Z. Just giving you an atmosphere of the type of work that they're doing on takeoff and on landing. So on landing, it's all about business, especially at this, on a short final now. So they're doing everything they're supposed to be doing. But I remind you that it's a nighttime. Those landing lights, you could see those damn landing lights from here to Nairobi. Even on the video, that's why we see the whole thing, because we see the damn landing lights coming off the damn American Airlines plane. They're bright as anything. They're very bright. So they were visible. Then we have the audio from the helicopter saying, we have them, we're requesting a visual diversion or something like that. Why are you requesting that? Just do it. Just do it. And to my eyes, it looked like they hit the gas and flew directly into this plane on purpose. That's what it looked like to me. That's what my two eyes saw. But not only that, we're talking about a helicopter, a Black Hawk, no less. So this is a military helicopter. It's not like a news helicopter. A Black Hawk helicopter, a military helicopter, is more agile. It's built to be more agile and versatile in what you can do with it. I've been to air shows. I've seen how they operate these helicopters. They're very dynamic. But my main piece of evidence is that helicopters have the ability to hover everybody. A plane coming in on final approach can't do anything but keep going. But a helicopter, you see something, you could damn near stop in midair and hover. Why didn't they hover? Why didn't they hover? Not only that, but it's not like this was some unusual route. I mean, these planes are literally going back and forth across, like it's like the freeway. Think about you standing perpendicular to a freeway. That's the freeway. Cars go up and down that freeway all day, back and forth in either direction in front of you. Why would you cross the freeway? You wouldn't. This is that. Why are you flying into, even if there hadn't been a crash, why would you be flying perpendicular to a known freeway of airplanes that are taking off and landing? This is their area. Why are you there? Why? But as I said before, why didn't you hover? When you said you had them in sight and you were requesting visual separation, why didn't you hover? Because those helicopters come in real quick, and then they can do that like damn near stop in midair and hover. I've seen it. We've seen it. You've all seen it. Then they've given us damn near the name of everybody on the airplane. We know where they went to school. We know when they first started walking and when they started teething. We have it. But it wasn't until, I don't know, I guess a few hours ago now, that they finally put out allegedly the names of two of the pilots that were on the helicopter.
it's still anomalous because why did it take you so long? Because it's a lot easier to get the three names than the full passenger manifesto of this airliner. You understand? Because they'd already told us the type of that type of helicopter it was, where it came from, why it was there. We know that it was on a night flying capability training mission. They only do that once a year, by the way, so that's also anomalous. They only do this particular training once a year. It's annual. Once a year, they do this exercise of night flying. That's anomalous. And the language from the article that I read was that these represented the most, like the best of the best, these pilots that were on this helicopter. The best of the best. Do you understand? Let me see. Do I still have it on my phone? If so, I'll let you. I'll give it to you. But if not, I'm over it. Um, let's see. um, but they didn't hover, and they went directly on into this aircraft. And as I say, they'd given us all the information on the Black Hawk except for the damn name of the pilots that were on board. And that was anomalous. Remember, they know where it came from. No aircraft, no flying aircraft on American soil leaves the ground without a manifesto. Do you understand? What time it took off, how many people were on board, all of that. Certainly a military helicopter, which, by the way, would have a military transponder to be flying around restricted DC airspace. Otherwise, it would automatically be shot down by the Pentagon's surface to air missiles that fire on their own. Do you understand? The only way that doesn't happen is you have to have a military transponder. That's the signal that, to think of it as Wi-Fi. You know what I mean? You know, you have to have a Wi-Fi name in order for the Wi-Fi to come to your phone or your whatever, your computer or something. Like you still don't see it working, and then you realize, oh, I got to put in the right Wi-Fi name. Think about that as the transponder. So it's all radar and stuff. So that's why when you see the president come out of the White House, get on the helicopter, and it takes off to start flying over to Andrews Air Force Base, it doesn't get shot down because it has a military transponder. It lets the system know, the air defense systems know, that this is a friendly aircraft. So the missiles won't shoot your ass down. So this is a Black Hawk helicopter. So of course it had a military transponder. It's literally a military helicopter. Like, I'm over it. I did find the article here. It says that and because they had like several thousand hours or something like that between them. Is this the one? Excuse me. And also, I looked at the to see who was on the airplane, everybody, because that's one of the first things I look at things like that. Like, who was on the airplane that could have been their target? I couldn't find anybody that made any sense at all. The most noteworthy was the Olympic ice skaters that were on board. There was a some Russian Olympic ice skaters and American Olympic ice skaters. So I don't really think those would be any type of a target. You know what I mean? I didn't find anybody in the names and people that they revealed that raised any eyebrows or did anything at all to be suspicious or anomalous at all. Um, and We're gonna see this report from the BBC. I want you to hear this though first. Um, it says that these pilots that were on the helicopter, is this the beginning of what they're talking about them? The helicopter flight along the Potomac was a routine nighttime. This is the other thing too. They're trying to, well, some of the stuff I want to say when I play the video. But I wanted the exact quote. The three soldiers of the helicopter that collided were all very experienced, and not only had thousands of hours of flight time between them, but were familiar with the flight patterns above the Potomac River. So that means you are used to planes coming and going, and you would know that that would be like, watch your ass. You understand? And again, why I wanted the names of them is because I was willing to go down the path of, well, there wasn't any pilots on the damn helicopter. You know what I mean? That it was just remote control, because they can do that. They can fly commercial airliners and helicopters remotely. They've been able to do this for many, many years. Many, many years. That's not anything new. The Army has confirmed that all three were from Bravo Company, 12th Combat Aviation Battalion, based at Fort Belvoir, Virginia, but they're taking the bodies to Delaware, so whatever that means. I read that earlier. But they're based at Fort Belvoir in Virginia. My brother was stationed there for a while. It was about 20 miles south of D.C. Unit primarily transports senior blah blah blah. They primarily transport senior military officials around Washington area and beyond. Now, they said there was 3 people on the helicopter. I only found 2 names. Who's the third person? Who's the third person? And I've seen that the wreckage from the aircraft, like you're going to see this in this report they're going to watch, but I'm still going to need to see the helicopter. I'm going to need to see that. I'm just going to need that. Let's see. Recovery efforts for 2 of the soldiers, because again, they say the 3 soldiers that were aboard the Black Hawk. Okay, fine. So the recovery of 2 of the soldiers in the frigid waters of the Potomac continued Thursday, as did the search for the missing among the people on the airplane, blah, blah, blah. By the way, also, they said that the airplane was in like waist deep water. Waist deep. And at its deepest point, it was only 8 feet. So this isn't deep water. Again, I don't know. I can't understand how nobody survived. Nobody. They say the helicopter flight along the Potomac was a routine night flight, a routine nighttime qualification flight. Hear that? A routine nighttime qualification flight. It's like someone's trying to get qualified to fly at night, in which an instructor pilot tests a pilot's skill at navigating the various routes through the Washington area that are key parts of his or her mission. Okay, maybe this isn't the same one that I read earlier, because again, it's only an annual thing. They only do it once a year. It was a very experienced group, said somebody, Jonathan, a retired Army chief, with 30 years of experience, blah, 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 Unified Command. He confirmed to reporters on conference call that a male instructor pilot had more than 1,000 hours of flight time. The female pilot was commanding the flight at the time, had more than 500 hours, and the crew chief was also said to have had hundreds of hours of flight time. So in all those hundreds and thousands of hours of flight time, none of y'all flew at night? That's an anomaly. That's an anomaly. That's an anomaly. He said, given the short duration of most helicopter flights, the number of hours they had flown showed how experienced they were. Huh? So as part of their annual qualification, there it is, as part of their annual that means once a year, all Army aviators are tested on their skills during daylight and nighttime, as well as instrument flying. And by the way, that's probably why they didn't get a collision alert on the helicopter, because they were also flying below 500 feet. And that might be why he was asking the tower when they said, do you see the airplane? And he was like, yeah, we see them. And requesting visual diversion or visual separation. An Army Flight Safety Investigative Team from the Army Combat Readiness Center at Fort Novosol in Alabama has arrived in Washington to support the national the transportation people. All right, the evaluated pilot was in command of the flight, but if an emergency was to occur, the instructor would have taken control of the helicopter. Both pilots had flown this specific route before at night. This wasn't new to either one of them, end quote, he said. Quote, these are our top pilots doing this national capital region. Huh? So I've read enough. They were supposed to be the top of the it, but their names, I saw a name earlier. Two of the names. When I was on the phone with Joseph, my best friend. Let me see. Damn, where's the name? But what we're looking for, everybody, is we're looking for family members of some of the pilots on the helicopter to be being interviewed and being very distraught and just devastated and can't go on, and they're showing their picture of them with the American flag and all of it. Like, we need to see that, because I need to know that these people were real. Like, this wasn't a helicopter being controlled by remote control. And I'm suggesting to you also the timing of this, because the day that this all happened is the same day that they were threatening that war was about to break out between the Congo, Uganda, and Rwanda. And that's a very scandalous thing. You need to follow me over on Jedi Africa. I'm telling you, it's bad, everybody. So that my mind automatically went to that also, because I thought, okay, timing. What would, maybe this is just a distraction even. Like, what would it mean? And also the fact that it was a smaller jetliner. It wasn't a 767, it wasn't a 757, it wasn't a 777. This was a small airplane, basically. So that also I found interesting, at the very least, certainly remarkable. They didn't want to do nothing real big. Let's just do like a little type, you feel me? Okay, I'll just get their names for you at the end, everybody, so we can move on. Because I know that I saw them in this damn article, but somehow I'm not seeing them now. So let's get to our video first, and then I will continue to rant and indict as we go through this. This is from the BBC. See this now.
It's the worst US air disaster in more than 20 years. A mid-air crash late last night between a passenger plane and an army helicopter in the skies above the nation's capital. 64 people were on board the American Airlines flight and 3 were on the helicopter. Now all 67 are presumed dead. Some of the bodies have now been recovered from the Potomac River.
We got to see these pictures they were just showing. Is that I need to know what I'm looking at. I can't make out what I'm looking at. No, because that's, oh, it says FBI, so that's a person. All right, that's not the helicopter. All right, let's keep going.
Who were on the helicopter. Now all 67 are presumed dead. Some of the bodies have now been recovered from the Potomac River, where the plane came down, and that process continues. But while it's much too soon to speculate about the cause of the collision, President Trump has blamed diversity rules under his Democratic predecessors.
He is such a piece of shit. I'll talk more about that when we get to him.
Saying he believes people hired at air traffic control were not always qualified. He provided no evidence. Tonight, we'll bring you what is known about the collision and look at some of the questions now being raised in a tragedy air accident officials say was absolutely preventable. We begin tonight with Sarah Smith in Washington.
By the way, to the brothers, when you wear dress shoes, you can't be squatting down and all that. You see the brother's shoes, like all shade intended, because no. Especially you be on air, you're going to be seeing your whole body. You need to have some shoes that you don't be squatting down in and creasing the leather. You understand what I'm telling you? I could not let that get past me. It had to be told.
But some of the questions now being raised in a tragedy air accident officials say was absolutely preventable. We begin tonight with Sarah Smith in Washington.
Rushing to the scene, hundreds of emergency services officers, not knowing if there are any lives they can save. Inflatable boats are needed to reach the wreckage. Both the plane and the helicopter have crashed in the river.
The fuselage of the American airline plane was inverted. It's been located in 3 different sections. It's in about waist-deep water.
Waist-deep.
So that recovery is going to go on today.
Overnight, the search was for any possible survivors who might have been lost.
But he didn't mention the helicopter. We'll just hear that again. He does not mention the helicopter. He goes out of his way to tell us it was waist-deep water, even. It broke into 3 sections. You immediately think he's going to say, and then the helicopter, but no mention of the helicopter. Let's go on.
The American airline plane was inverted. It's been located in 3 different sections. It's in about waist-deep water. So that recovery is going to go on today.
Overnight, the search was for any possible survivors who might have been lost in the freezing water. As morning came, it was clear everyone had lost their lives. 60 passengers and 4 crew on American Airlines 5342, 3 soldiers in the Black Hawk Army helicopter.
Okay, 3 soldiers on the Black Hawk helicopter. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And any bodies that were going to be in the water, he told you it was waist deep. So the bodies would just be readily evident right there, just right there. Any that weren't inside the fuselage of the airplane. Do you understand what I'm telling you? So that's a little suspicious. Not terribly, but it's something to mark down. Now, this is John Donnelly.
Despite all these efforts, we are now at a point where we're switching from a rescue operation to a recovery operation. At this point, we don't believe there are any survivors from this accident. And we have recovered 27 people from the plane and 1 from the helicopter.
CCTV pictures show
Okay, 27 people from the plane, 1 from the helicopter. Where is the helicopter?
the moment of impact. Very low.
Now, this is your circle. That bright ass star in the middle of this damn circle, that's the landing lights from this airplane. It was bright as the sun. Those are very bright lights, dude. Very bright. So, there was no way they did not see this airplane. There's no way they didn't see it. No way.
The plane and 1 from the helicopter.
CCTV pictures show the moment of impact. Very low in the sky, over Washington, D.C., the helicopter and the plane are rapidly heading toward each other, and then we can see the sudden explosion.
No. The plane is on final approach. normal aircraft on approach probably about 130 to 150 miles an hour. They're not going their top speed or anything. You remember, they're slowing down. So, and they're in short finals, so they're probably at about 130 to 150 miles an hour, and they're not rushing towards anybody. They're on short final. It's this damn helicopter you see rush in like a damn missile. I think that's the best description of it. Watch.
CCTV pictures show the moment of impact. Very low
You
in the
see?
sky over Washington, D.C., the
Look,
helicopter
look.
and the plane are rapidly heading toward each other, and then we can see the sudden explosion. On closer footage, we see the crash quite clearly. In the cockpit was 28-year-old American Airlines pilot Sam Lilly.
And the fact that we see white smoke trail immediately.
Explosion. On closer
You
footage,
see the white
we
smoke?
see the
Well, they're going to show this again.
crash quite clearly.
Boom.
In the
Well, okay, they
cockpit
didn't
was
show the aftermath.
28, rapidly
We'll
heading
just see
toward
this again.
moment of impact. Very low in the sky over Washington, D.C., the helicopter and the plane are rapidly heading toward each other, and then we can see the sudden explosion. On closer footage,
Nah.
we see the crash quite clearly. In the cockpit was 28-year-old American Airlines pilot Sam Lilly. His father said he started his training 6 years ago, and he was engaged to be married. Also on board, Wendy Schaefer, a wife and mother whose children are just 1 and 3 years old.
Look, we already got pictures of them and everything, and all their background, what they did when they were 3, when they started teething. We have it all.
A married couple of world champion figure skaters from Russia were flying
Look.
with other athletes they'd been coaching in Kansas. Very close to downtown Washington and its famous skyline, the wreckage can still be seen protruding from the icy Potomac River, a distressing sight for nearby residents.
But that's the airplane. Where is the helicopter?
Yeah, everyone's just distraught. And so it's been shocking to everyone.
Just didn't feel right because it's, I fly with the smaller jets like that when it was coming in, and I see the helicopters all the time going through here. I see Marine One constantly going back and forth and to Andrews over there, and it just I don't know, it just kind of shocking.
There are recordings from air traffic control as the accident happened.
Fire Command. The accident happened in the river. The helicopter and the plane crashed in the river.
An investigation is already underway into how this accident could have occurred on a clear night when both aircraft were following standard flight patterns. Military helicopters do fly over and around Washington all the time. This Black Hawk was on a
Wait.
nighttime training flight. President Trump asked for a moment's silence.
Okay, before I get to him, that's the other thing. They keep saying it was. Every time they mention helicopters in every report I've seen, it's like, it was all routine. It was just routine. It was routine. No, it wasn't. It wasn't, because, and I suggest to you that they're trying to make it seem like it was just so normal because they want to try to muddy up liability. We just don't know whose fault it could have been. This is clearly the fault of the helicopter. This approach and landing that happens hundreds of times a day. That's it. The only anomalous thing that was there was this fucking helicopter. And as I've already said to you, this training mission only happens once a year. It's not like it happens every day and they're just always there doing this training mission right there in traffic. They're literally playing in traffic. Literally. So I suggest that the idea is to try and throw the liability off of the military some type of way, because otherwise the families, there's more money in the government than there is in American Airlines. This is about who's going to pay out the claims, you understand? And these families are going to get millions. They can just start making their lists out now. They don't ever need to work again. That I promise you. They don't need to work ever again. But they're trying to divert this away from being the liability of the military. particularly the Army in this case. Let's go on.
Silence for what he called a tragedy of terrible proportions, before quickly blaming
Look at this fat slob. Fat bitch.
equal opportunity policies and air traffic control for making flying less safe.
The initiative is part of the FAA's diversity and inclusion hiring plan. Think of that. The initiative is part of the FAA's diversity and inclusion hiring plan, which says diversity is integral to achieving FAA's mission of ensuring safe and efficient travel. I don't think so. I think it's just the opposite.
How you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash?
Because I have common sense.
No, you don't. You're a pathetic white piece of trash. You are you're the vanguard, the drum major, the mascot of white inferiority. I remind you, white people bitched that Michelle Obama wanted to plant a garden and have the country be healthy. Obama was the picture of aesthetics and, being in shape, and so was Michelle. This motherfucker openly admits all he eats is fucking Kentucky Fried Chicken and McDonald's and Coke and shit all damn day. He's a fat walrus, but this is all cool with white people. I remind you that the two scandals that Obama had in his entire 8 years was he wore a tan suit to one of these White House briefing rooms. And that was an international scandal, let the white people tell it, that he wore a tan suit. The other one was after Trayvon Martin was murdered, rest his soul. And when he had a tender moment where he said, if I had a son, he would look like Trayvon. And pathetic, inferior ass, depraved, Neanderthalic ass white people's head rolled off. What the hell would his son have looked like? Their ass? I mean, this is what we're dealing with. So here in the middle of a tragedy, could you imagine Obama said something that didn't reflect the sympathy and hearts and prayers and our hearts just go out and we can't go on, and maybe do a tear? They would have bitched. But this fat bitch up here can say this shit? This don't have shit to do with hiring. This is the military. The plane was where it was supposed to be. The air traffic control did everything they were supposed to do. The only people that fucked up was this damn helicopter. Let's be very clear. Let's be very clear. So I'm very convicted that the purpose of this language that we've been hearing from the reports, and now this fat ass, is to try to move liability away from the military, i.e. the Department of Defense, because it was a military helicopter, move it away from them to the air traffic controller. Let's shit on the little guy who busts his ass to keep planes separated all damn day and make sure we're all safe when we take off and land. You understand? No, let's shit on them instead of this damn military industrial fucking complex that has the largest budget of anything in the damn country. We're not even getting into their wasteful spending. I remind you that the day before 9/11, on that Monday, go watch my 9/11 video. I show you Rumsfeld making the announcement that the Pentagon couldn't account for some $2.3 trillion in transactions. And then the very next day, the very side of the Pentagon that would have been handling the investigation gets allegedly hit by this airplane. Who believes that shit? I just had a Christmas tree come out of my ass. Who believes me? Well, it did, and Santa was there too. He's waving at me. So there you have it. So this is who needs to pay out the claim. Is the damn military, i.e. the Department of Defense. That's what needs to happen. That's what needs to happen. So this is why he has incentive to say it was some DEI bullshit. There's crazies out there. These people walk around, they start shit, and they think they're safe. He's already had, 2 attempts on his life? Seems like he would walk very lightly. But he just wants to incite shit. Just incite violence in the fucking country and shit. And division. And you got these dumbass white people walking around talking about, you know, Obama's just tearing the country apart, dividing us. No, bitch, your white ass is the only people that divide anybody on the planet. Is your white ass. It's only you. It's only you. That's facts.
A nighttime training flight. President Trump asked for a moment's silence
Look at the
for
lard
what he
ass.
called a tragedy of terrible proportions, before quickly blaming equal opportunity policies and air traffic control for making flying less safe.
The initiative is part of the FAA's diversity and inclusion hiring plan. Think of that. The initiative is part of...
This had nothing to do with the FAA at fucking all.
The FAA's diversity and inclusion hiring plan, which says diversity is integral to
He's a
achieving
petty
FAA's
bitch.
mission of ensuring safe and efficient travel. I don't think so. I think it's just the opposite.
How you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash?
Because I have common sense. Okay?
That's
And
it.
it is just common sense,
Because I have
apparently.
common sense. That's it. That's it. That's white fucking arrogance. Because I have common sense. That's supposed to be that's supposed to be acceptable. I wish I was in that fucking newsroom. Oh my God. They would have to carry me out, literally.
With this crash?
Because I have common
But I
sense.
appreciate that reporter for asking that.
Okay?
And it is just common
Piece
sense,
of
apparently. No evidence has been presented to connect diversity policies with this or any air accident.
Thank you. Appreciate her for throwing the shade on that. Let's hear that.
And it is just common sense, apparently. No evidence has been presented to connect diversity policies with this or any air accident.
Thank you.
The Transport Safety Board want everyone to wait for the facts and the conclusion of their investigation.
Now, this furthers my claim. This is the Transportation Board. Hear her tone. Again, everybody's like, we just don't know, and we just have to wait. No, bitch. You know it was the military helicopter that caused this. That's the only thing that was there that wasn't supposed to be there. That's it. That's it. You want to tell me that the Reagan National had issued a memo or a fax or something to the air traffic controllers there, and all pilots flying in and out of Reagan that day, that there could be military exercises in the area and be alert or some shit? I'll hear you. I'll hear you. But these pilots on that airplane had no liability at all. Either did the damn air traffic controllers. Let's be very clear about that. Let's be very clear.
The Transport Safety Board want everyone to wait for the facts
Want
and the
everybody to
conclusion
wait.
of their investigation.
Listen to her.
It's not that we don't have information. We do have
Body language.
information. We have data. We have substantial amounts of information. We need to verify information. We need to take our time.
That's a bitch that's lying and covering. Her tone, the body language, how much volume she's using with her voice. That's a lying white whore right there, everybody, helping to cover up for what the theory that I'm forwarding. And that is they're trying to move this liability away from the Department of Defense and somehow try and make it be the air traffic controllers, because they can't blame the pilots on the plane because they were on a short final. They were done with their flight. They were done.
One, to wait for the facts and the conclusion of their investigation.
It's not that we don't have information. We do have information. We have data. We have substantial amounts of information. We need to verify information. We need to take our time to make sure it is accurate. That's best for you. That's important for the
What
family.
did Dr. King say? Justice delayed is justice, goddammit, denied.
One, to wait for the facts and the conclusion of their
Lying
investigation.
It's not that we don't have information. We do have information. We have data. We have substantial amounts of information. We need to verify information. We need to take our time to make sure it is accurate. That's best for you. That's important for the families. It's important for legislators who are seeking answers to try to figure out what they're going to do about this.
But this tragic accident looks like it may become one more battleground in the political and culture wars in America.
Yeah.
Sarah Smith, BBC News, Washington.
Well, as we've been hearing, it was a clear night. Visibility was good, with eyewitnesses saying everything about the approach into Washington of the American Airlines jet looked normal.
Absolutely.
So what do we know about what happened next? And what are the questions?
We know what happened next was there was a helicopter that wasn't fucking supposed to be there, and they crashed into this airplane. If there was anybody even on board, because like I say, we've still not seen the wreckage of the helicopter, and they've been very cagey about giving information about the helicopter.
Questions now raised. Here's Roz Atkins.
The American Airlines flight and the
Look.
Black Hawk military helicopter collided over the Potomac River. The first
Even how they're phrasing it, that the airplane and the helicopter collided with each other. No, bitch. A helicopter came out of no fucking place and rammed into this damn airplane. That's what happened. They did not crash into each other. The helicopter crashed into the airplane. That's very important to get the language right. Because again, I always tell you, how you think and speak is how you relate and react. And language matters. So it is more correct, a more correct description to say that the helicopter came and hit the airplane. It wasn't a mutual collision. They're trying to make it a mutual thing. We reject that. We reject that.
flight and the Black Hawk military helicopter collided over the Potomac River. The first question is whether either was off course. The plane, marked in blue, approached the airport from the south. The helicopter, marked in red, was flying along the river.
Look, and it's all over the place. You see, the blue, they said, represents the airplane. So they're on a smooth damn thing. You know what I'm saying? They're going to come on over here and hit this runway right here. They good. Until this bitch comes. You see? They're the ones doing all this fucking zigzagging and look like they're drunk and we don't know. You understand?
Glided over the Potomac River. The first question is whether either was off course. The plane, marked in blue, approached the airport from the south.
First question is was either off course? No. The plane was not off course. You see, everybody's using that language to try and make it sort of ambiguous. Ooh, we don't know. It's just we have to wait and find out because we don't know. We know already.
Either was off course. The plane, marked in blue,
approached
approached the airport from the south.
And what are the questions now raised? Here's Roz Atkins.
The American Airlines flight and the Black Hawk military helicopter collided over the Potomac River.
Wasn't mutual.
The first question is whether either was off course. The plane, marked in blue, approached the airport from the south. The helicopter, marked in red, was flying along the river. The Trump administration says both were on a standard flight pattern. But right before the crash, air traffic control...
Wait, why would the Trump administration be making a statement about whether or not they want to crash? They're not fucking air officials. They need to shut the fuck up.
Course. The plane, marked in blue, approached the airport from the south. The helicopter, marked in red, was flying along the river. The Trump administration says both were on a standard flight pattern. But right before the crash, air traffic control...
I already told you that it wasn't standard for the helicopter. This was an annual exercise. The airplane is the one that was on a standard flight pattern. You understand? Again, they're twisting the shit. I'm telling you, everybody, mark my words, put it on your calendar, put it in your phone, whatever you got to do right now. Mark that the Jedi said that they are trying to divert liability from the Department of Defense and the military to the fucking air traffic controllers. Write it down. Write it.
Speaks to the helicopter.
Wait.
Referring to it as Pat 25, airport from the south. The helicopter, marked in red, was flying along the river. The Trump administration says both were on a standard flight pattern.
No.
But right before the crash, air traffic control speaks to the helicopter, referring to it as Pat 25 and...
as Pat 25, air traffic control speaks to the helicopter.
The plane as CRJ.
Okay.
This is the audio.
Pat, that's helicopter. Do you have the airplane in sight? Air traffic control. Again, they're doing their jurisprudence. Helicopter says, pass behind the airplane. Or they're still telling them that. Wait, I gotta know who's saying what. Let me shut up.
Next to the helicopter, referring to it as Pat 25 and the plane as CRJ. This is the audio. In other
I'm not sure if the air traffic controller is saying fly behind or if the helicopter is saying. Or if that's just audio from inside the helicopter.
Plane
Wait.
As CRJ. This is the audio.
Do you have the airplane in sight? Is that them responding or is that still air traffic control speaking? Pass behind the airplane. It was kind of intelligible. I couldn't really understand it. I didn't hear that. But whatever.
In other words, the helicopter was being told to watch out.
No. You're adding that. They didn't say watch out. Because they don't do no in other words on air traffic control. They say exactly what they mean. So do pilots. You got to say exactly what is, not in other words, because that could get people killed. They're very precise. So fuck this reporter. They're basically saying, nah.
In other words, the helicopter was being told to watch out. In another recording, we hear what appears to be the helicopter's pilot.
The aircraft is in sight, requesting visual separation. That's supposed to be from the helicopter. Requesting visual separation. The aircraft is in sight. And notice, they didn't call the airplane because the entity causing a potential problem is the helicopter. We don't have any traffic of the tower speaking to the pilots in the airplane. We don't have it. We don't have it. It's like if an airplane is taxiing down the runway and you decide you're gonna run on the damn tarmac, they're gonna be after your ass. You're the problem. You're it, not the airplane. So this is what we see happening here. All their communication is with the helicopter.
In another recording, we hear what appears to be the helicopter's pilot. There's a question here about which aircraft is being referred to, because as we can see from the footage, there was another plane near...
Nah. Again, this is an attempt to cover for the helicopter, everybody. That one is so far out, we know that's not even the one they were talking about. Because if that was the case, that means they would have to be looking past this one. You understand? No. And given how bright these landing lights are, that means that one is way off in the distance because its light is not like the sun hitting us right now. So strike that. Do you understand?
Nearby. We don't know if the helicopter pilot had this plane in sight or the one he
Yes, we do, because remember, it was a clear night. It was a clear night. And remember that they're over the city, so everything is illuminated. You see how this illumination is coming up from the ground? It's illuminated. It's illuminated. You understand? You have visibility. So that, again, even the reporters, the fake-ass media is trying to even join with the cover-up and try and cover for the fucking helicopter.
There's a question here about which aircraft is being referred to.
No, there is no
because,
question.
As we can see from the footage, there was another plane nearby. We don't know if the helicopter pilot had this plane in sight or the one he would collide with. Soon after, we hear air traffic control again.
I don't know if you caught earlier.
I don't know if you caught earlier what happened.
But
there was a collision on the approach into runway 33. That's internal. So he kind of misrepresented that too. Let's hear what he said to that.
I don't know if you caught earlier what happened, but there was
another plane nearby. We don't know if the helicopter pilot had this plane in sight or the one he would collide with. Soon after, we hear air traffic control again.
Soon after we hear air traffic control again. You see that they meant to leave that kind of empty, so you would think that it's a communication between them and the airplane. It's not. That's just audio being picked up from the air traffic controllers in the tower talking to each other. Like, I don't know if you saw that, but there was a collision because there's no need to talk to them anymore. They already know and they can see it on their screens that there's been a collision. You understand? So fuck this damn reporter also. That's meant to be deceptive, everybody.
Soon after, we hear air traffic control again.
I don't know if you caught earlier what happened, but there was a collision on the approach in the 3-3. We're going to be shutting down operations for the indefinite future.
In the seconds before what had happened, wouldn't there have been an automated warning?
No. As I said to you already, if the aircraft is below 500 feet, either the collision avoidance system would not sound, especially they're on short final. They're literally several thousand feet away from the damn runway. Either it would not sound, or if it did, it would just let them know. It wouldn't give them any course of action to take. And most likely they would have probably just ignored it almost, because again, they've got a million things going on when you're landing this damn airplane. You know what I mean? So that's, again, he needs to just shut up is what he needs to do, or die off.
Collision on the approach in the 3-3. We're going to be shutting down operations for the indefinite future.
In the seconds before what had happened, wouldn't there have been an automated warning? Passenger aircraft in the US use what's called a collision avoidance system. One expert, though, told the BBC the system's warnings can be inhibited when an aircraft's at low altitude. Lastly, would we expect planes and helicopters to share airspace in Washington?
No.
We definitely would. Ronald Reagan National Airport has one of the busiest runways in the US.
But that's why you wouldn't have helicopters just flying out of nowhere. Because it has some of the busiest runways in the damn country. Again.
It's just 5 miles from the White House. There's a huge amount of military and civilian flights in a relatively small area. Some aspects of the moments before this disaster were not unusual, but something went terribly wrong. Why did this helicopter and plane collide? That question still requires an answer.
No, and the answer is they collided because the helicopter crashed into the airplane. End of investigation. Everybody can go home now.
Area. Some aspects of the moments before this disaster were not unusual, but something went terribly wrong. Why did this helicopter and plane collide? That question still requires an answer. Bros Atkins, BBC News.
Fuck these people, dude.
We're going to focus on some of the people on board the American Airlines jet now, with at least 15 of the passengers being athletes, coaches and family members involved with US figure skating.
See, they're going straight to the people on the airplane. We ain't seen no wreckage from the helicopter, and I don't even think they mentioned the name of them in this report. They're being very deliberate about not talking about the helicopter. because that's where the liability is. But you know what, everybody? It doesn't matter what the fuck they say, because at the end of the day, any lawyers getting a hold of this already know where the money sack is at. It's at the fucking Department of Defense with the military, and that's who they're going to be making out their lawsuits for. That I promise you. That I promise you.
Laura Scott reports now on the impact of the crash on the tight-knit skating community.
Brimming with enthusiasm at a training camp for the figure skating champions of tomorrow.
Okay, I don't know if we really
Among
need
them,
this.
the teenager Spencer Lane.
It just goes to, the link that they're going to, that we already have all this background footage and pictures on people that were on the airplanes, and we've not seen a single picture of the helicopter, the wreckage, and we've not seen a single picture of any of the pilots that were on board. But you've got all these people, and you've got their entire dossier. You feel what I'm telling you?
A quarter of all passengers might have been involved in unimaginable grief. Athletes, and spoke of their... Two more clubs said they were mourning the loss of their athletes, and spoke of their unimaginable for Russia, and competed at the Olympics. They'd been helping to develop young skaters in Boston since 2017. Tonight, two more clubs said they were mourning the loss of their athletes and spoke of their unimaginable grief, amid reports that a quarter of all passengers might have been involved in figure skating.
The main lesson I think learned in skating is you get back up. Keep on trying, and even when it's hard, you get back up.
Oh yeah, that is Nancy Kerrigan.
Even when you're crying, hurt, pain, you get back up and move forward. It's not easy, but that's what we all have to do now together.
Please join us now.
Taken too soon. Laura Scott, BBC News.
Well, in a moment, we'll return to Sarah live in Washington. But first, Nomia Iqbal is at Reagan National Airport, where the passenger jet last night was coming into land. And air accident investigators have been speaking where you are, Nomia, in the last couple of hours. What have they been saying?
Clive, it's almost back to business here at the airport. There have been so many planes flying in the skies, but if you're a passenger on that plane and you look out the window, you will still see the Black Hawk and the airliner half submerged in the icy waters of the river.
That's our first mention of the Black Hawk helicopter. It's our first mention of the helicopter in wreckage.
Tomat, the recovery operation is still very much underway behind me. Now, the National Transportation Safety Board has said that it's investigating multiple factors. It's confirmed that they have not recovered the flight data, also known as the black boxes. They plan to issue a preliminary report in around about 30 days, but they have said it will take some time because there's so much information that they have to verify. And even though President Trump seems to have prejudged the investigation, saying what he thinks caused it, the Safety Board says it's refusing to speculate.
All right, and to you, Sarah, in Washington.
The Safety Board is refusing to speculate. If this was not a military helicopter, everybody, the report would go like this, and the lying whore from the Transportation Board that stood to the mic would have been saying, we probably have a situation where a helicopter has run into a commercial jet airliner and blah, blah, blah. They would just tell the shit as it is. Listen, I'm telling you what I know, everybody. That's what's happening here. They're only thinking about politics and money. That's it. That's it. And because Trump is now the president, and he's such a petty bitch with a vagina, he would do something this petty just so it doesn't look like his military made a mistake. You feel what I'm telling you? It's so sickening and sad. But I pray Allah that the families understand what I understand. That their love, if I had somebody on that plane, and I see what's happening, I'd be like, nah. My family member was on that airplane, and this damn helicopter came out of nowhere and fucking hit them. Like, that's what a 3-year-old knows it. That's what happened.
That's what happened. Don't even listen to anything else, everybody. Don't even listen to anything else. I'm telling you.
And was Donald Trump simply speaking off the top of his head when he was talking about diversity policies perhaps being behind what happened?
Well, he didn't have any evidence for that, but what he has done is sign a memo demanding that this be investigated, that all hiring practices at the Federal Aviation Authority over the last...
There's no need to investigate the hiring practices at the aviation. You see what I'm saying? I'm just getting more furious as I can't even do it, man. We're almost done.
4 years whilst he's been out of power, be investigated. And if there is anybody who has been hired who doesn't meet qualification requirements, then they should be sacked and replaced immediately, because he says he is convinced that it is these diversity policies that have lowered aviation standards. Now, it is being reported here that staffing levels were not normal in the air traffic control tower last night.
But just as she's even entertaining this, bitch, you're a reporter. You're supposed to say, but clearly the cause of this crash had nothing to do with the FAA at all. And don't let the British accent fool you. You understand? This is still corporate media, even though it's the BBC.
Then they should be sacked and replaced immediately, because he says he is convinced that it is these diversity policies that have lowered aviation standards. Now, it is being reported here that staffing levels were not normal in the air traffic control tower last night. That jobs would normally be assigned to 2 different controllers were being done by just one.
That had nothing to do with this helicopter coming out of nowhere. Absolutely nothing.
One person who by themselves was having to handle all the planes that were landing and taking off, as well as dealing with all the helicopters that were in that airspace. Now, we don't know whether that's routine on occasions, whether that's unusual, but it's definitely something that the air accident investigators are going to have to be looking into, along with every other aspect of this crash.
Not only that, but it occurs to me also
would normally be assigned
because it's a military helicopter, I don't know how much responsibility, I'll use that word, or duty, I think I like that one better. I don't know how much duty they would have to even report to the tower, or how much duty the tower would have to even communicate with the military helicopter, because that's kind of out of their purview. It's the military, unless they're going to be interacting with the airport itself, or they need assistance regarding air traffic because they're going to be doing something, and they need guidance from the tower, about traffic or something like that. Then I could see it. This seems to me like this was the tower is focusing on fucking the shit that's happening at Reagan National, as they should be. This fucking helicopter comes out of a marshmallow someplace, and they have it on their radar, so they know, they identify what it is, and then they can speak to them. I would like to hear the traffic before this, but I don't think I need it, and I think I've made my case, because as I pointed out, we have no traffic going to the American Airlines plane. So for all their DEI potentially, they were focused on the shit they were supposed to be focused on. What is your helicopter ass doing here? What are you doing? Do you see the airplane, bitch? You feel me? They didn't even talk to the airplane because there was no need. There was no need. They were on short final, geared down. There was no reason for them to speak to anybody other than who they spoke to, and that was that fucking helicopter. Talk back to me, everybody. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'm sure this is going to come up in our live. This is some bullshit. I maintain that until I've seen the actual wreckage of this helicopter being pulled out of the Potomac, I don't know that it exists. I have not seen it with my own eyes. I have not seen it. And white people telling me some shit has been dead since I was 3. If I don't see it myself, it didn't happen. Didn't. So until I see a Black Hawk wreckage coming out of the damn Potomac, it didn't happen. And until they account for the lives of these 3 people that were on the helicopter and give me all the dossier backstory they gave me on everybody else, the saga and the movie and the reality show, then I'm going to maintain that this was either not a helicopter, it was something else that hit the airplane, or it was a helicopter, but it was being operated by remote control. And then we'll move to another motive and things like that, because like I say, from everybody I've seen that's on the airplane, I couldn't find anything suspicious. And so it all lies with the helicopter now as far as I'm concerned. Talk back to me, let me know what you think. Don't forget, everybody, subscribe and thumbs up, but also leave some kind of acknowledgement that you did it. That's the only way we can fight these fucking white devils that got them at YouTube. I love you all. I'll see you soon. This is the Jedi.